Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Maria. If you watch this video and you enjoy it, don't be shy, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for any future videos on narcissistic abuse recovery and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Today we're going to get into social anxiety. Let's talk about why it is so real. And stay tuned for the end of this video, because if you are someone that's going through social anxiety right now, I have a message for you. So as we talk about social anxiety, I want you to understand where this really stems from. So there is something called complex post-traumatic stress disorder. We call this C-PTSD, and this stems from long-term emotional abuse, whether this be narcissistic abusive relationships, upbringing, bullying in school, being ignored, toxic relationships, a toxic childhood. Sometimes we develop C-PTSD. And when we do develop C-PTSD, there are 5 signs to tell you that this may be what you're dealing with. These signs are toxic shame, a vicious inner critic or inner dialogue, emotional flashbacks, self-abandonment, and social anxiety. So when we talk about social anxiety, this is so important to understand what social anxiety is. And at the core of social anxiety, this is just the feeling of not being able to feel safe being your true and authentic self. So let's get into this. So if you were someone who was the scapegoat of your family in the game of triangulation, or maybe you were bullied in school, this causes something we call core wounds. So you may have a core wound of abandonment. You may have a core wound of shame, of embarrassment. Whatever it may be, we carry around these wounds inside. Because these wounds don't just dissolve with age. If there's one thing that time does not heal, it's trauma that lives in our nervous system. So as we develop these core wounds in our childhood, we tend to carry them into our adult lives. So say we get into a social situation and we feel that anxiety. That anxiety is coming out or speaking from a core wound that you have inside. We speak truth into these core wounds that we have. We say that this wound of abandonment is because we were not lovable, we were not likable. There was something internally wrong with us that caused people to abandon us in the past. If we get into social situations, we may feel these wounds come up. Even though they're old wounds, we still feel these feelings in our physical body in the present. This causes us to not feel safe being our true and authentic self in our current social situations, because we think and we have been trained to feel that if we are our true and authentic self, we may feel those wounds of abandonment arise, and our body will do anything to avoid feeling this pain. So when we talk about these wounds of abandonment that we may have picked up in childhood, one of the symptoms of complex post-traumatic stress disorder is self-abandonment. Self-abandonment is kind of like people-pleasing. So you're abandoning what you want, your wants and your needs, and you're giving the power over to someone else. You're saying that their wants and their needs are more important than yours. So when we have these wounds of abandonment, a lot of times we become adults who people-please, and it comes full circle. We either smother our relationships by giving too much too soon, Or it's an uncomfortable feeling of, is this person going to leave me? This constant feeling of, are they going to leave me? Which is stemming from this wound of abandonment. So because we have these wounds of abandonment means that we give too much of ourselves. These abandonment wounds come full circle, and a lot of times it causes us to be abandoned. Well, social anxiety is kind of like that. If we are having these wounds inside of us, of shame, of embarrassment, of abandonment, and we go into social situations, a lot of times what we do is we shrink down. We don't feel safe being our true and authentic self, and we get little, we shrink, we hide, we isolate, we get quiet. Okay, so that it doesn't allow anyone to actually get to know who we are. And it's a lot like the wound of abandonment and the self-abandonment that we have in complex post-traumatic stress disorder, where the social anxiety also sometimes comes full circle, and people actually may feel that we are not being our true and authentic selves and choose to not partake in friendships with us, or it may poke at our wound of abandonment because we don't form those friendships that we see other people around us forming. And this is only because we are not feeling safe being our true and authentic self. So let's talk about that. So when we are talking about healing or curing social anxiety, let's talk about the actual healing journey from long-term emotional abuse, whether it be narcissistic abuse, bullying, whatever. So what it entails is we have these narratives that were placed on our life in childhood at one point or another. And this may have been an outside voice that told us things about ourselves and we believed them. Or maybe we were given the silent treatment and we filled in the blank and we told ourselves what is wrong with us. We figured out what's wrong with us because it must be our fault as to why an adult or whoever is not speaking to us. Or if we were bullied, we looked around and we saw other people forming friendships and we thought there must be something wrong with me because bullies don't like me. This is what's wrong with me. And we attached it to our identity. So the healing process of long-term emotional abuse takes place by peeling back all of those narratives that were placed on our life or that we placed on ourselves, and getting down to our true and authentic self, and from there creating boundaries, like using the word no, okay? So when we talk about this healing journey, and then we think about social anxiety and how can we fix this? How can we help ourselves get through this social anxiety and be able to function in a social environment, in a social setting, public speaking, getting together with friends, groups, co-workers? Well, if the root of social anxiety is that we don't feel safe being our true and authentic self in front of others or groups, then it's going to be very important that we do that inner work so that we learn who we are, okay? This is going to take looking in the mirror and diving in and figuring out what is a true thought about myself and what is a false thought about myself. What narratives have been placed on my life that I attached to my identity and I believed, and who am I really? These things need to be completely separated. There are things that we have, we call them underdeveloped strengths. So we walk around thinking there's something wrong with us, right? We have social anxiety. We can't interact. We have to instantly shrink or fall or get small or push people away in social situations. There must be something wrong with us. And internally, we beat ourselves up and say, I'm flawed. There's something wrong with me. People are never going to like me. And we just beat ourselves up. What we need to do is the complete opposite. We need to figure out who we are. And in that process, we need to have compassion for ourselves. Take these underdeveloped strengths that we have and admit them and love ourselves anyway. Get comfortable in the uncomfortable. Reassure yourself that you can do hard things. There is nothing wrong with you. Even if you're someone that struggles with severe social anxiety, you isolate, you feel like you can't even leave your home or your apartment, and this is such a tough situation for you to be in. I want you to understand that there is hope and that there is a reason that this is happening. This is a feeling of safety. This is a safety issue. This is something that you can go inward and figure out. Who am I really? What is the false ideas that I have about myself? What are the ideas about myself that are actually true? What evidence do I have that I am really this person? And learn to love yourself anyway. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy it, don't be shy, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for any future videos on narcissistic abuse recovery and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And as always, I wish you all the love in the world.